Okay, so we were talking about getting started.
Yes.
Are you going to plant your seeds inside or outside?
I'm in Boston
Mhm.
and it's March. I think maybe at first it would be good to plant inside and then move to outside, but totally willing to take your advice on that.
Yeah, so for like the seedlings, really what you need to make sure is you have a spot you can be kind of messy, right? Because the dirt's going to kind of
Yeah.
go everywhere and it's going to be wet. So I live in California, so it's never really that cold outside. So I usually do it on like the picnic table outside where I can then just use a hose and clean it up. But when it's really freezing cold outside, oftentimes I'll do like a little bit, like if I'm doing microgreens or something smaller, I'll just do it on my kitchen counter where I can like wipe it up.
I think that I have like a little outdoor small table
Mhm.
that's mine. So I can just use I'll just start there.
Okay. And will you freeze to death if you do it like that today, do you think?
No, I'll just bundle up.
Okay, and do it for just like a little bit and then go back in.
Yeah, easy.
And then where are you going to put the pots once you've like planted everything? Have you got that set up?
I don't have it set up, but I have an idea. I have, and I can show you my little outdoor patio. I have just like this dirt kind of surrounding where the tenant that used to live here planted a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
So my hope was just to put those out there. We get some good light throughout the day if it's not gray and windy. So that's kind of my plan.
Okay. And then what about the seedlings for like while they're germinating? Where are you going to do that? Like, do you have grow lights ready?
I don't.
Okay. You don't need them right off the bat, but you're going to need them probably within a couple of days once the seedlings
Okay.
start to sprout. So usually I would say get it all your gear ordered ahead of time, but most seedlings do take about a week before they sprout.
Okay.
Once you really need the light once they've like poked up out of the ground.
Gotcha.
And you can get lights pretty quickly. Yeah, so I would say if you don't already have them on the day that you sow the seeds, probably order them that same day. Like Amazon will come the next day probably, but if you get them anywhere other than that, you might have to wait a little while.
Okay.
That's that. We've got the physical setup. So you're going to go outside and let's make our plan before you go outside so that you're
Yeah.
not freezing for too long. I sent you a whole big package of lots of seeds and soil of things I think that you'll like and I
Yeah.
think will grow well for you. Do you have them right
I
there?
do. They're right
Okay,
here.
good. So let's make a list of them and then we can figure out that list. And I'll open the copy of the seed starting planner so
Cool.
we can look at the timings.
The free planning chart.
Yeah, the foot of every email. It's the link that's the free printable planner.
Yes.
Remind me again what seeds I sent you. I know I sent you some tomatoes, but otherwise I've kind of forgotten, honestly.
Yes. So you sent me kohlrabi,
Mhm.
organic tomato, chocolate silk, lettuce, brown gold ring, um, mitspona,
Miss Buna, yeah, the funny one.
kale, madeley, organic lettuce, shell pea, squash, radishes, tatsoi. I
Yeah,
also
that's
don't
right.
know that word.
That's
Okay,
right.
cool. Yeah, so we got
So,
some good stuff.
so some of those are microgreen seeds. They're like a lot of seeds and they're meant to be grown just like as babies. So we can set those aside. Those are like a whole separate
Okay,
project.
so put the microgreens aside for now.
Yeah. And then let's focus on the ones that'll be things that you can do for your outdoor spring garden. So that's going to be the
Cool.
Mispuna, the kale, the brown
Yep,
golden lettuce, the
yep.
tomato. Is anything else in there? Or is that it?
Kohlrabi, squash,
Oh, yeah.
um, basil, shell pea, and Mikola.
Oh, the Macola. I love that Macola. It's so delicious. That's the most delicious lettuce. Okay, set that one aside. Let's
Wow.
do some Macola because that'll just make you so happy.
Okay,
It might
I'm
be a
excited.
little early for Boston for lettuce, but lettuce is so easy and there's so many seeds in that package that like if the first batch doesn't work, the next batch will. Let's start by making a list, a little bit like the list in your
Planning chart.
planner. Yeah, so basically you just go down the left side
Mm-hmm.
and write the crop. So we'll do a cola lettuce, brown gold ring lettuce, a chocolate silk tomato, a spuna, and Madeley kale, and basil.
Yep.
Okay, so then the next column is the transplant time at my house, which when we're talking about Boston, it's cold there. So
Yes.
a lot of these, you can actually look them up on your other chart of like, is it a warm season or a cool season?
Mm-hmm.
So the warm season ones, you really don't want to transplant them outside until the soil is warm. And I remember when I was learning to garden, it was one of those ones where I was like, that's not specific enough. Like What does
Hmm.
warm soil mean? But once you've been through the transition from cold to warm soil, it's actually very intuitive. You just like it's like if you dig a hole and stick your hand in the dirt, it's like when it just sort of feels pleasant, like getting into like a nice warm swimming pool. This time of
Okay.
year, to go and stick your hand in the soil, it'd be like, ooh, that's chilly. Like getting into
Yeah.
the ocean, you're like, no, that's not nice. But when it has that feeling of like being, oh, that's nice, that's warm soil.
Amazing.
So
Easy enough.
anything that says warm, don't put it in your outside ground until it feels warm to your hand.
Okay.
And I don't know when warm to the hand happens in Boston because there's like last frost date, but I think warm to your
Hmm.
hand is after that.
Probably be sometime early May, probably mid-May
Hmm.
is probably when it would be warm to the hand.
Okay, so let's just put that, and of course, every year is different. So let's just put that down as like your stake in the ground of mid-May is transplant time at my house for anything that's on the list as a warm season crop. So that's
Perfect.
tomato for sure is a warm
Yep.
season. Squash is a warm season. Basil is
Yep.
also a warm. So that would be like a mid-May transplant date. Your other ones are cool. Kale,
The
your little,
lettuce.
yeah, kale, lettuce, and Ms. Spuna are all cool. Now, again, I'm not an East Coast gardener. So for me, cool here is any time between like November and March. I can
Got
put
it.
in the ground. You guys, the ground actually freezes and you have snow on it, which is less nice for gardening. Um,
Yep.
so what I have read, and this would be good to probably confirm with other Boston gardeners, is that the cool season plants, you can transplant them out as soon as the soil is like a texture that you can dig. So it's not frozen and it's not so kind of waterlogged and gunky that it just like turns
Yep.
into sort of like a sticky mud ball, but it doesn't have to be warm yet. So
Okay.
kale and lettuce and mispuna, it just, you got to be able to dig it and then you can put it out. Do you know when that is likely to happen?
So we're in this time frame in Boston right now. Again, I've been here for less than a year, so I'm not quite sure. I'm not like used to this, but where there will be one day that it's super warm, like 58, and then today where it's like low 30s.
Ooh.
So it kind of just depends, but I feel like the air isn't as dry, thus potentially it would be easy. I'm not quite sure. I feel
Okay.
like now would be fine, but again, I can go out and just test that myself.
Well, and if now would be fine, we're still a couple weeks away, 4 weeks away minimum from anything being ready for transplant. So it feels like those greens you could do all of them now. So let's say
Hmm.
transplant date, like the soonest transplant date, given that it's already late March, is probably like April 20th or so,
Okay.
would be like the soonest, which means we go look at our list here. So kale is 4 to 6 weeks from sowing to transplant. So that's
Okay.
basically start it now to transplant it in April.
Okay.
So we can just
To
put,
go for that like April 20th time frame.
yeah, because that's about 4 weeks from now, right? So we can put that one on for start today. Um, Lettuce, same thing. And Ms. Spuna is actually a mustard green, so that's in the same category as the lettuce. So those will be a little bit faster. So I think all of those are good to start today. So basil is 4 to 6 weeks, and it needs to be like properly warm. So
Okay.
mid-May, maybe even June. 6 weeks back from mid-May would be the earliest you would possibly want to start that.
Yeah, so that would be like
April
maybe,
6th.
I mean, yeah, April 6th, something like that.
Yeah,
Great.
and then like if you want to plan it out like the 1st of June and you back up 4 weeks from that, it's like the latest you would want to do it would then be like the 1st of May, right? So that's like
Okay.
your time frame for doing the basil. And then tomato. So tomatoes are slower, they're 6 to 8 weeks, and they want to go out when it's properly warm. You could probably do those now
Okay.
and be ready around the 1st of June, kind of late May, early June.
So do tomato now.
It'll just take a while. It'll be indoors. You'll be working on that one longer. And then I think there's two more on your list. You've got that squash, the tatumi squash, and the peas.
Yep.
So peas are direct sow. Squash and peas both are direct sow, which means don't put them in pots indoors. It means just poke the seeds like with your finger straight in the ground. And when you open the packet, you'll see why the seeds are like they're big, it's like a pea.
Hmm.
So those kinds of plants like outgrow their pots super fast. And because they're such big seeds, they grow like up past the slugs really quickly. It's like those little
Okay.
seeds that will get mowed down by birds and slugs and stuff before they get a chance to really get going. But like a pea will just
Yep.
come out of the ground and take off. And because a pea is a
Cool.
cool season, like if you can dig in the soil, you can plant those today. Just poke them in.
Okay.
Um, so maybe we can do that and maybe not, or you can just go out and find a spot, a sunny spot, and just stick them in the ground and they'll want to climb on something, but you have a week or two to get that organized because
Okay.
it'll be a while before they sprout. But once they do start going, they'll want like a trellis to climb up or else they'll just be like a big pile. And it'll be
Okay.
hard to get at the peas. And then the squash, that one is poke that one into the ground when the soil feels warm and you've got a nice spot for it. So like, for
Okay.
example, here in Northern California, I put my squashes in, I usually put them in like mid-May, sometimes even late May, if it's been a cold spring.
Okay.
Because if I plant them too early and it's cold, they kind of like get all sad. And sometimes they
Hmm.
get stunted and never even really grow.
Interesting.
If you've got like a good 2 weeks of warm weather and warm soil, then they just grow and get established and then they're happy. So if you can kind of see that you've got a good stretch of warm weather coming, that's when to do it.
That's when to do the squash.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
But you don't need any pots or anything for that. That's just stick it in the ground. Maybe do you want to just start with two to start small?
Yeah, let's do that.
I think I'll start with two because the two longer ones, the tomatoes, which take a while, and the kale, which takes a little while. And then next week we can do the lettuce and the mispuna.
Okay, cool. It's not even.
I'm sort of focusing.
So we got the kale, we got organic tomato chocolate silk, and
Mhm.
organic kale medley.
Yeah, you're gonna need probably, I've honestly forgotten what pots I've sent you. What
Yeah,
pot?
let me show you. So I have two of these guys,
Yep.
and I have two of these.
Oh,
So yeah,
perfect.
which should go in which?
Yeah, so I would do the tomatoes in the 60.
Okay.
And then,
Cool.
as long as you're doing that rectangle and we're just doing them, you may as well do some lettuce also, along with the kale, because
Okay.
you don't need that much space for those kale seeds. And you can
Okay.
transplant them all out and kind of give them more space later.
Is there, so I have the brown gold ring lettuce and I have the Micola lettuce. Is there
Mhm.
one that you think would be better than another one for now?
Both super delicious. I think the brown gold ring is a little easier to grow. That one's, in my experience, is pretty bulletproof. You know what? No, let's just do two 60s worth, one with tomatoes and one with kale. And then we can do the other greens in a rectangle planter later.
Bundled up. I have my organic kale in 6 seed, organic tomato in the 6 seed, and I have my dirt bag. And
Yep.
then what else should I bring with me outside?
You're gonna need a bowl to mix the dirt
Okay.
bag with water. You'll need a Sharpie to label.
So I have my bowl and
Yeah.
then I just need a Sharpie.
And then do you have a hose outside or do you need to bring
I
water
do
out?
have a hose outside.
Okay, great.
Okay. Here I'm gonna go. Transporting myself.
Love it. Out we go.
So this is my backyard.
Hmm.
Nothing special here. It's fiance's electric bike,
Nice.
but we do get some good sun,
Hmm.
and I mean we've got some good
You've got a lot of
dirt,
space
I
there.
think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to get filled with plants. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Okay,
Okay.
so usually what I like to do first is label the 60s so that,
Yep.
because once your hands start getting dirty, it's harder to use the Sharpie. So I would
Okay.
just put on the side of which one, what it is.
Will the Sharpie come off?
Yeah, it will. It
Cool.
comes off just like with elbow grease and like a dish scrubby or with rubbing alcohol or with like nail polish remover.
Organic kale.
Good.
Should I write? This might be a dumb question, but organic tomato chocolate silk.
I
Is
mean,
that
I would
important?
just, it depends on what you need to know so that you remember. When I've done chocolate silk, I just write chocolate silk because I know that's a tomato.
Okay.
But if you are likely to forget that chocolate silk is a tomato, I would also probably write.
I'm gonna write that just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always better to write more than less because So often I'm like, oh, I will, oh, yeah, there you go. Nice. I'm like, I'll
Yeah,
totally
because
do that.
in this conversation you and I are having right now, I might forget what chocolate silk is tomorrow. So, okay, we've
Exactly.
got them labeled.
Perfect. So I think you're gonna want like, I would guess 6 dirt pellets to fill
Okay,
those.
so just one in each.
Oh no, you put them, sorry, in the bowl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we mix them together in the bowl. So like 6 total. I think like 1 dirt pellet fills about 2 of those pockets. Okay, great. So that's probably more water than you're gonna need. Are they
Okay.
expanding?
Yeah.
Cool. So once they've
Should
like
I like use your
it,
hands?
yeah, you can stir it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, this is nice
Is
actually.
isn't that fun? I love doing
It's
that.
like very soothing.
Once it gets like if it's wet like that, it's probably too wet for the seedling, for the seeds. So what I usually do when I over water it like that is I pull it out and then like squeeze it to wring it out. Yeah, there you go. Nice. And now you should have, once it's squeezed, you should have something kind of nice and crumbly and smooth in your
Yeah,
hand.
totally.
And then just go through and fill all 12 pockets with that kind of loosely. Yeah, sort of like
Okay.
now sort of softly crumble it into each little pocket. You just have to imagine like you've got baby little roots that are trying to like fill in that space. So if it's
Yeah.
packed too tight, it's hard for them to get in. Okay, perfect. Looks great. Okay, so now, oh, I probably should have told you you might want a towel.
It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, because now once your
We're
hands are
embracing it.
wet, yeah, you're freezing and you've got wet hands. Okay, so now
We're okay.
um, you want to do 2 from each of those packages. You want to do 2 seeds of each type per pocket.
Okay. Two per pocket.
Yep. So with the tomato, you want to
Yep.
start with now that your hands are dry, it's actually great. It's better to have dry hands. There you go. So usually what I do is I dump the seeds into my hand and you want to get like 10 or 12 seeds total so that you do like 2 per pocket.
Yep.
Probably about how many you've got in the package anyway. And put them in kind of a little bit apart from each other
Okay.
so that each plant has a little bit of space.
So
Okay,
this
so
is what
that's
we're
ready.
looking.
Oh, that looks perfect. Okay, so let's set that aside while your hands are still dry.
Yeah.
And then let's do the same for the lettuce. And the lettuce
Cool.
seeds are even smaller.
Wow.
So if you can't get exactly 2 per pocket, that's okay.
Okay.
Usually with lettuce, I end up getting like 3 or 4 per pocket, and that'll be fine.
Wow. But
That's fine. Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect. That looks great.
perfect.
So now we want to cover them with a little bit more soil. So you want to get another bunch of it. And then this time you want to like kind of sprinkle it on top so that they get buried by like 1/8 of an inch max. They just want to be covered so that they're not out in the air, but not
Yep.
very deep.
And will I pat them? Like,
You're gonna pat them down very gently so that the soil and the seeds are like really touching each other nicely. So like a very gentle sort of tapping.
gentle.
Exactly. Perfect. I can see that that's the right gentleness.
So no seed should be showing, not
Yeah.
sowing. So I just gently put the soil on top so that the seedlings are covered. Seeds are covered.
Perfect. Oh, that looks really good. All right. So the next step is that we need to water them. So
Okay.
usually what we do is water them in really gently from the top so that like the water can trickle through and kind of get the seeds nicely in contact with the soil all the way around them.
Yep.
That only works though if you have something very gentle to water with. Like if you have a hose with a mist setting, that's
Mm-hmm.
good. Or sometimes the DIY method is to take like a water bottle and poke little holes in it with a pin so that
Yep.
there's a very gentle little stream. So if you don't have that, the next best thing is to not actually water it, is just to fill your 60 with water and let it be moist from below.
Okay.
Do you have a mister on your hose?
It says on my hose, you
Nope.
think that? No.
Not too heavy.
And that says garden. So, and this
Yeah.
is flower. Oh, that is
Oh,
kind of a mist.
that get it moist without actually moving the soil, right? Because if
Yep,
you move the soil, it like stirs the seeds around that you so carefully put in there, and you can like actually just wash them out of the pot onto the ground.
that
So
makes sense.
maybe from far away, just very gently.
To be pretty pretty subtle, right?
Yeah, it should be gentle. And does it look kind of nice and moist on
It
top now?
does.
A little bit shiny and wet?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so that's done. So we can go inside. The next step is going to be to fill them with water. And a trick for when it's cold out is to fill them with warm water from the tap to get them off to a good, nice, warm start.
Okay, perfect.
So we
So
can
I'll
go
head
back in the
inside.
kitchen, yeah, and use warm water from the tap. And then we'll go put them somewhere warm. Nice warm tap water and take out the corks and fill them up.
And should it be filled pretty much to the top? Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm gonna put this back in.
Yep. Now we need to find a spot that's warm to leave them. Do you have
Do
radiators?
we don't have radiators.
Sometimes top of the fridge is warm enough.
That
That
might
can be one
actually be
spot.
perfect.
And then tomatoes sometimes need extra. So if they're taking like if in 10 days or so you've got nothing still, we might want to get a heat mat also to
Yeah.
give.
I can definitely order a heat mat. Putting them on top of the fridge might be my best option here.
Cool, there they are. All right, and then we need to talk about light because you're going to need some kind of grow light. Do you want to just use that as your grow spot right there?
Yeah, let's use this as a grow spot.
Okay, so to fix a light there, do you use that cabinet?
We have random stuff up there, but I can definitely move things around.
I was gonna say if you put one of those clamp lights, you know, the kind that you get that are like a cone with a clamp on it, you could like
Yeah,
clamp it to the handle or to that cabinet door if you don't need to get in
yeah.
and out very often.
No, we definitely don't. Maybe clamp it to that.
Yeah, that looks like a good
Cool.
spot that a clamp can hold onto, or maybe just even to the door itself, depending on
Yeah.
how the angles work. But you've got a couple good attachment points there. And then you have a plug nearby?
Actually, I have one right here.
Oh,
Cool.
easy. Easy peasy. I'll email you some links to various grow light options.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, I would honestly put the grow light like right away,
Okay.
just because you never know when they're going to pop up,
Hmm.
especially if it's on top of the fridge and you don't see it. So even like 12 hours of a seedling popping up with no light will make it like start to get too tall and skinny. And have it on a timer too, so you're not even really thinking about it. So it's just on for 12 to 14 hours a day, every day.
Okay.
And it just does its thing, and you've just got like grow room on top of your fridge from
Yeah,
now
that's what
until
I was curious about if it's something that I leave on all night and all day, but it sounds like that's something I could easily just do when I go wake up and go to bed.
you can do that, or like I use a timer because I always forget. Like
Okay.
everything I can put on a timer, I put on a timer.
Yeah.
Um, Especially because it really annoys my neighbors because our grow room zone is next to their bedroom. And so if I
Okay.
forget, then it like keeps them up all night. So it's super annoying. Digital light timer, like you use, you know, if you're going to go away to make it look like you're home to turn your lights on and off, it
Yeah.
just those work super well.
Okay. Cool. 12 to 14
You already,
hours a day.
great. I will email you a link of like a shopping link with
Cool.
the bulb, the cone, and the timer. And
Amazing.
from the research for that last webinar, the bulb and the cone together should be like $20. And I haven't bought a timer in a while, but they're not expensive. I think we can do this whole thing for under $30.
We can definitely put the links in the bio for all those
Mm-hmm.
things that you send me too, and we can just track our progress.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, again, I'm very much a beginner, like really starting at preschool here.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that this will be super helpful for me and obviously everyone else that's in this stage that wants to get into seeds and all of this. So I think it's gonna be awesome. Awesome.